Starlight slid across the hull of the LSR like a slow river, turning the royal ship into a floating mirror in the black. Inside, the corridors glowed with soft silver light, and the air smelled faintly of cedar resin and something cool. It's like early morning after rain. The Velian Empire called the Elisar a palace with engines. Humans, who were new to these halls, called it a miracle. Captain Ethan Cole walked those corridors with measured steps and careful eyes. His earthborn boots made a quiet rhythm on the polished floor. He had the calm face of someone who had been to places that demanded calm. He wore a dark uniform with light body armor that fit under ceremonial white. It was formal but easy to move in. The armor had no badge from Earth. He was a guest here. He served as a shield, not a flag. 2 royal guards guided him toward a balcony garden near the upper decks. The guards moved with the same precise grace as the ship itself. Their crystal sheen skin picked up light from the walls, and their eyes held a steady blue glow, like tiny oceans. They did not speak to him. Ethan did not mind. He had learned in his first weeks on the Elissa that silence could be a form of respect here. The balcony garden opened like a mouth to the stars. A transparent shield kept out the vacuum and held in the gentle climate. Trees with sapphire leaves swayed to a song played by invisible speakers. A small river ran along a path, humming to itself as it touched smooth stones. Above all this, galaxies looked close enough to touch. Princess Lyra stood near the rail that curved around the stars. Her gown fell like water around her ankles, dyed in pale tones of dusk. She was reading from a floating display, the letters circling her like slow birds. When she looked up and saw Ethan, her expression softened in a way that made him feel both seen and studied. "You are early, Captain Cole," she said, closing the display with a gentle turn of her fingers. Her voice had the steady warmth of a fire you did not realize you needed until you sat beside it. "Habit, Your Highness," Ethan said. "On Earth, arriving early means you respect the mission." Lyra tilted her head. "And arriving exactly on time means the mission respects you back," he said. The princess smiled at that. It changed her face from lovely to living. She stepped closer and motioned toward the planet ahead. "Neutral world of Myroth, a place of white deserts and low blue seas. Tomorrow is important," she said. "A peace dinner in the Hall of Mirrors. My mother wants quiet minds and steady hands around me. They say humans are brave. They also say humans love to jump." "Then I will be brave without jumping," Ethan said, his lips hinting at a smile. "I can stand very still." Lyra's laugh was light. "Your record shows the opposite. On turn station, you did not stand still at all. Looked toward the starlight as if checking it for changes. On turn station, standing still would have made a bad day worse." Lyra folded her hands. The light caught on the small facets along her fingers, natural crystal among her people that made their gestures look like slow art. "May I ask you something personal?" she said. "Of course," Ethan said. "Why did you accept this assignment?" she asked. "You could have stayed on Earth. You could have trained others. It is not common for a human to stand in front of an alien royal family and say, 'I will be your shield.'" Ethan's answer came without drama. "Because someone must learn the crossing. If the first person stumbles, others will not cross at all." Lyra considered that, and in the silence, a small wind moved through the garden. "You speak like a teacher," she said. Once Ethan replied, "I thought I would be. Life taught me something else." Princess's eyes were curious now. "And what did life teach you?" "That protection is a promise," he said. "Not to save a life from every danger. No one can do that. The promise is to try without fear, and without asking for a reward." She nodded slowly, as if filing those words in a special place. Then she turned back to the view. "Tomorrow," she said again, softer, "please keep me safe and also make sure I do not say something that breaks 10 treaties." "I can do the first," Ethan said. "For the second, I would need a miracle." Lyra laughed again, and this time it was brighter. "Then, I will try to be my own miracle." They walked the garden path together. Lyra asked questions about Earth, about rain, about markets, about music that was sung with no electronic instruments. Ethan spoke about summer air on a quiet city street after a storm, about coffee stalls at the corners. about the sound of a crowd cheering because someone did something generous, not because someone won. He used small words and simple images, and somehow that made the pictures larger. When he spoke of Earth's oceans, the smell, the wildness, the way the horizon keeps a secret, it could almost hear waves under the gentle ship music. Lyra listened with her head slightly bowed, as if the words were falling into her hands, and she did not want to drop any. The next day dawned, silver aboard the Elisar, and Mirith grew large in the windows. The landing was smooth, almost like a sigh. The royal party descended through a corridor of soft light. Mirith's hosts greeted them with careful smiles and firm bows. Outside, the sky was white-blue, the air warm. The city rose in clean lines, a study in beautiful balance. The Hall of Mirrors turned out to be a place that reflected more than faces. Its walls were high and curved, set with panels that held living water. The floor was white stone, polished to a gentle shine. Every step made a sound like a distant bell. Tables spread in a circle like sunrays, set with small dishes from many worlds, folded leaves with sweet steam. Thin bread that broke with a song, fruit that opened to reveal light inside. Queen Seraphis, tall and composed, entered with a stillness that changed the room. She wore a mantle, the soft gray of dawn. The small facets on her hands caught the light like quiet stars. Her eyes, an old sea blue, took in everything without moving fast. People stopped moving when she did, not because she demanded it, but because something in her presence suggested that motion should consider meaning. Ethan stood 1 pace behind Lyra and 2 to the left, exactly as he had studied and exactly as the royal protocol had taught. He watched lines of sight. He measured distances, with a mind that had learned to do it without needing numbers. He did not see threats. He saw habits. The way a person carried weight on 1 foot. The way a server's eyes kept drifting toward a corner. The way a visiting noble kept 2 fingers pressed to a little device, as if it were a comfort stone. "Relax," Lyra murmured, not turning her head. "I am relaxed," Ethan said. "You say that with your voice," she replied softly. "But your shoulders say something else." "Bad manners, shoulders," he said. Lyra's mouth curved, and then she became the princess again. Stepping forward to greet a scholar from a river world and an engineer who wore a bandolier of tools like a necklace, conversations rose and fell around the hall, small chimes left and right. Music threaded through it all like a ribbon. Ethan moved his attention the way a lighthouse turns. He noticed the servers again, in graceful uniforms that flowed like the water walls. One server at the far table carried a tray with cups made of a thin, clear crystal. The cups made tiny sounds like frost singing. The server's steps were even, the eyes were calm. When the tray tilted, the server corrected easily, the way an expert does without thinking. And yet the server's other hand clenched a little too tight. The breath was held a little too long. The eyes measured a path not to a table, but to a line that would pass behind Princess Lyra. Ethan turned his body a fraction, so that if he had to move, he would not collide with a post. He watched the left hand, the right foot, the throat, the path. Another note, a visiting noble's assistant, adjusted a collar and looked not at the noble but at the ceiling's vent pattern. A second later, a ripple went through the mirrored wall, small as a sigh. The queen rose and the room's sound folded a little. She lifted a spark of sweet fruit, pressed it to the air in quiet blessing, and spoke about how peace is not an object but a practice. She used words that seemed carved, not painted, careful, bright, lasting. Lyra watched her mother with proud eyes. Ethan watched everyone else. The server's hand opened. The tray dipped. A sleeve slid back, exposing a bracelet that wasn't a bracelet. It had a seam. It had a place that drew the eye, because it did not draw the eye. Ethan began to move before his thoughts fully formed into words. He was not fast like a sprinter. He was fast like something that had already decided. "Your Highness," he said softly to Lyra. It was a warning and a request. Lyra's eyes flicked at him and then at the server. She did not gasp. She did not freeze. The Princess of Velian turned her body half a step so her mother and the guests remained in view while she placed Ethan in the space between herself and the approaching line. The tray slipped. A cup fell and did not shatter. made a singing sound as if someone had tapped a glass at a wedding. The server's left hand moved under the tray, and the seam on the bracelet opened like a mouth too fast to notice. A pulse of harmless-looking light winked once, and then hardened into something with intention. Ethan stepped forward and shifted the tray with 2 fingers just enough that it slid to his hip instead of to the floor. The cups sang again. It gave him the moment he needed to slide his shoulder in front of Lyra. The pulse of light moved past where her heart had been and struck the edge of a water wall. The skin of water rippled and turned white for an instant, as if it had been. The morning light of Velian's capital stretched through tall crystal windows, spilling across the smooth floors of the Elissar. Outside, the city shimmered like 1,000 tiny stars on a white-blue desert. The air was warm, almost soft, carrying scents of the spice markets and the rivers far below. For Captain Ethan Cole, each breath reminded him that he was far from Earth, yet here, the world demanded his focus as much as any battlefield he had known. He had barely slept. The Queen's words from the throne room echoed in his mind, "You have given a part of your life to this house. We will not easily release what we respect." There had been no threat in her tone, only weight. A binding. Ethan had felt it settle across his shoulders. An invisible armor stronger than any plating he had worn. He walked to the royal medical chamber, checking his shoulder again. The marks of the pulses that had touched him in the Hall of Mirrors were gone, or perhaps hidden beneath Velian healing magic. The healer nodded at him as he entered, eyes calm, voice soft. "Captain Cole," the healer said, "your body is fully recovered. There are no lasting injuries. But the energy that touched you has left a trace. A small infusion of our biocrystal. Nothing harmful, yet it will change how your body reacts to extreme strain." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Change in what way?" "Strength, endurance, and healing will improve slightly. Your blood now carries a small resonance of Velian energy," the healer explained. "You will heal faster. You will tire less. But it also ties you closer to the Empire." The words settled over Ethan like a sudden weight he could feel pressing in the center of his chest. He had survived an assassination attempt, protected Princess Lyra, and now, in a way he did not fully understand, his life belonged partly to Velian. Lyra appeared at the doorway. Soft footsteps brushing the polished floor. "Captain, are you ready?" she asked. Her tone was calm. But there was an undercurrent Ethan had learned to read over the past weeks, a mix of concern and curiosity. He nodded. "I am ready, Your Highness." They left together, moving through corridors lined with holographic tapestries showing scenes from Velian history, battles, treaties, celebrations of knowledge and courage. Ethan noticed the difference now. Where before these images had felt distant, stories of other worlds and other warriors now seemed to whisper directly to him. The infusion of Velian energy in his blood seemed to resonate with the images, giving him a sense of connection he could not explain. They reached the archives of Mirith, a vast complex of books, holograms, and crystalline data cubes. Scholars from multiple systems were already there, preparing to present the cultural history of their people to Princess Lyra. The purpose of the visit was simple on the surface: it's diplomacy and shared knowledge. But Ethan knew better. These were political games disguised as education. One wrong word, one wrong move, and the delicate balance of alliances could collapse. He took his position slightly behind and to the left of Lyra, scanning the room. Movements, expressions, and even the angles of light reflected off the crystal data walls. He cataloged everything in microseconds. Humans might seem small to Velians at first glance, he had learned, but observation gave them power. A scholar from Mirith, a tall being with soft green skin and eyes like polished jade, stepped forward to explain the rituals of the Moon Festival. Lyra listened politely, nodding, asking occasional questions. Ethan's attention flicked across the crowd. He noticed a servant whose uniform was too bright, the seams too clean, the gloves slightly too smooth. His hand brushed the edge of a crystal tablet in a way meant to distract anyone paying close attention. He shifted silently. Moving so that his shoulder was between the servant and Lyra, a small pulse of light, like the one from the Hall of Mirrors, struck the floor harmlessly. Ethan caught it with his gloved fingers. The servant froze for a heartbeat, then bowed with perfect obedience, as if nothing had happened. Lyra glanced at him. "Is something wrong?" "Nothing for you to worry about," Ethan said softly. But in his mind, he catalogued the sequence. Someone had tested him again. Someone had tried to probe the limits of his promise. The day passed with careful examinations, polite questions, and the slow-building tension of diplomatic eyes watching every interaction. By afternoon, Ethan and Lyra returned to the Elisar, both exhausted by the careful navigation required to survive even the simplest of social encounters among alien nobles. But what awaited? Ethan back at the palace was not. Exhaustionate was the queen. Queen Seraphis had summoned him. Before he could even reach his quarters, the hallway to her chambers felt narrower than usual, the soft light more intense. Guards flanked the door, silent and perfect. Ethan's steps slowed, mind alert. He had learned not to be intimidated. Yet every instinct told him this meeting would alter his life forever. He entered the throne room. Queen Seraphis stood in the center, her tall figure framed by light streaming through the crystal windows. Her eyes, the deep-sea blue he had memorized, studied him with a weight he could not measure. "Captain Cole," she said, voice calm but firm, "you survived because you acted with courage, and because you value the life of another over your own. That is rare." "I did what anyone would do for the princess," Ethan said, keeping his voice even. "I was lucky to survive." The queen shook her head slightly. "Luck is not the point. You have given more than your life. You have given your blood. That blood carries your essence, your courage, your choice to act when others would hesitate. And it has been observed, measured, and recorded." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I don't understand." Her hands, delicate yet strong, rested on the edge of the throne. "You are no longer merely a human who serves. You are now an asset of the Velian Empire. Your survival has created a bond that cannot be undone. You are tied to this family, and by extension, to the Empire itself. That bond will not be broken without consequence." The words hung in the air. Ethan felt the weight of them pressing in, an invisible chain linking him to a system he did not fully understand, but one that would now shape the rest of his life. Lyra entered quietly, standing near her mother but not interfering. She looked at Ethan with concern, her eyes asking questions he could not answer. "Mother," she said, "he saved my life. He acted with honor. That should not be a reason to trap him." Queen Seraphis's gaze did not waver. "Honor is what binds men and women to their oaths. Captain Cole has taken an oath he did not know he would make. That oath now belongs to us. He is bound, willingly or not, to the service of this family." Ethan swallowed, fighting the sudden swell of panic. He had fought battles on Earth, in space, against enemies who wanted him dead. He had survived. But now, standing in a room of light and crystal, facing a ruler who could decide his fate with a word, he realized the battle was not physical. It was political, emotional, and irrevocable. "I understand," he said finally. "If my life now serves a greater purpose, I will not act against it. But I will not be used against innocents or the people I have sworn to protect." The queen studied him. "Your integrity is noted. You will have freedom of choice within the bounds of your duty, but your duty is here. You are a protector of this line, of this family. That is not negotiable." Lyra took a step closer to Ethan, her hand brushing lightly against his arm. "You will stay with me," she said softly. "Not because you must, but because your presence matters. The Empire may claim you, but your courage belongs to yourself as well. I will not let them take that from you." For the first time, Ethan felt a spark of hope. It was fragile, but real. He could remain bound to Velian by duty. But perhaps there was a space where choice still mattered. The next hours passed in careful observation. Ethan walked with Lyra through the palace gardens, training in hand-to-hand defense and strategic movement. He taught her how to read the subtle cues of body language and environmental shifts that indicated danger. She listened intently, asking questions and mimicking his movements. Even in practice, they were watched. Sensors hidden in the walls and ceilings monitored every motion. The infusion of Velian energy in his blood allowed him to move faster, recover more quickly, and sense threats before they fully materialized. He had become stronger, but also more entwined with V-Lion. By evening, they returned to the palace, weary but alert. The queen summoned Ethan once more, this time to witness a ceremony. In the central hall, he observed the process of binding a new generation of Velian protectors. Each had pledged loyalty and had their blood infused with crystal energy. When he saw the ritual, he understood fully. The queen had plans to integrate him into this lineage. He was no longer just a human. He was part of the Empire's living structure. Ethan knelt briefly, acknowledging the weight of the bond without surrendering his spirit. The queen observed him closely, noting the respect he paid, the control he maintained over his emotions, and the silent promise that he would not falter in the duties expected of him afterward. Lyra met him in the balcony garden under the twin moons of Velian. "They will never release you," she said, her voice soft, almost mournful. "Not because they want to punish you, but because your courage is too valuable. My mother sees what you are and what you could become for us." Ethan looked out at the moons, their silver light reflecting in the calm river below. "Then I will use this," he said quietly, "to protect those who deserve it. Even if it is not my home, I will make it my purpose." The day dawned in the Velian capital with a soft, almost liquid light spilling across the Elisir's crystal halls. The city outside shimmered like a living jewel, and the twin moons above cast long, gentle shadows across the polished floors. Captain Ethan Cole stood at the edge of the balcony garden, letting the cool air brush across his face. He had trained himself for countless emergencies, yet today felt different. The queen had summoned him at dawn, signaling that a decision awaited that would test not only his courage, but his very identity. Princess Lyra appeared silently at his side. Her hair shimmered like silver water in the morning light. She wore the ceremonial garb of Velian, pale and flowing, embroidered with threads that seemed to hum faintly with energy. Her eyes, deep pools of curiosity and worry, searched his face. "They are ready for you," she said softly. "The queen has made her judgment. It is not what you hoped." Ethan straightened, muscles coiled, but his voice remained calm. "I expected as much. But I am ready." Lyra placed a hand lightly on his arm. "You will not face this alone," she whispered. "I will be with you." They walked through corridors lined with tall crystalline windows. The city outside was alive with motion, ships lifting from landing pads, people moving like carefully choreographed lines of light and shadow. Every footstep echoed in Ethan's mind. Every reflection in the glass, an opportunity to notice something unseen. At the throne room, the guards parted silently, and Ethan entered. Queen Seraphis sat tall on her throne, her expression calm but unyielding. Around her were Velian nobles and council members, their faces a mixture of respect, curiosity, and quiet judgment. At the far end of the room, emissaries from neighboring systems stood, their eyes flicking constantly between the human and the queen. "Captain Cole," the queen began, her voice smooth as flowing crystal, "you have acted with courage beyond that of a mere soldier. Your blood, your sacrifice, has been observed and recorded. It carries the essence of your humanity, now fused with our Velian energy. You are no longer merely human. You are a bridge between worlds." Ethan listened, steady, knowing that any sign of fear or hesitation would be seized upon. "I understand," he said simply. The queen's gaze sharpened. "And yet, there are those who would claim your life, seeing you as a threat, a weapon to be controlled or destroyed. Others, far beyond this hall, await the outcome of this judgment. You will be tested, Captain. Today, your actions will determine not only your fate, but the future of human-Velian relations." Lyra stepped forward. "Mother," she said, her voice firm but gentle, "he has already proven his loyalty. He saved my life. He saved this family. To demand more is to forget what true courage means." The queen regarded her daughter carefully. "I am aware of his courage, Lyra, but courage alone does not dictate the survival of an empire. I must weigh every life, every possibility. Captain Cole's presence is invaluable. That is why I will not release him." Ethan's mind raced. He had faced countless threats, yet never had he been bound by political claim rather than force of arms. "Your Majesty," he said, "I do not seek freedom at the cost of your people. But I cannot be a tool against those who have done no harm. My service is for protection, not conquest." The queen studied him for a long moment, then gestured. "Guards, prepare the ceremonial test." Ethan's eyes narrowed. He had heard of this ritual only in whispers. The ceremonial test was designed to prove allegiance, courage, and the ability to act decisively under extreme pressure. It was not a game. Fail, and the consequences could be deadly. The chamber doors opened, revealing a long platform stretching over a pit of energy that pulsed like liquid light. At the far end stood a holographic simulation of the Elisar under attack, figures representing invaders and threats to the royal family. The queen's voice echoed through the chamber. "You will demonstrate your skill, Captain Cole. Protect the princess, defend the palace, and make choices that preserve life. Your actions will show whether your bond with this empire is true." Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the resonance of Velian energy in his blood. He moved forward, each step measured and precise. The platform beneath him hummed softly, responding to his weight and movement. The simulation flickered to life, and he saw the holographic threat materialize. Enemy ships descending. Hallways filled with moving targets. Lyra stood beside him in the simulation, safe within a protective field. "Remember," she whispered, "they cannot harm me. But others can." Ethan nodded. He moved with fluidity, guiding simulated threats away from civilian figures. Using his strength and speed, enhanced by the crystal infusion, each motion was deliberate, calculated, and precise. He blocked attacks that seemed impossible, shifted the holographic barriers, and neutralized dangers without harming anyone. The simulation escalated. Multiple threats emerged at once. Ethan's heart pounded, but his mind remained clear. He calculated distances, velocities, and angles instinctively. Every movement was reinforced by the hybrid energy coursing through his veins. He was faster, stronger, and more aware than any human he had been. Lyra observed, her eyes wide with admiration. "You're incredible," she whispered. Not noticing that even the queen's guards were watching closely, Ethan intercepted a simulated projectile, deflecting it with his armored arm. The energy pulsed through him, and he felt the warmth of life force flowing in tandem with the valiant energy. It was a strange, powerful sensation. Fear, courage, and duty intertwining into a singular force. The test reached its climax, as the simulation projected a massive energy wave that threatened to overwhelm the entire palace. Ethan moved decisively, creating a barrier with his body and directing the energy away from Lyra and the civilians. He felt the strain as the crystal energy in his blood amplified his strength. Holding back the wave until it dissipated harmlessly, silence fell over the chamber as the simulation ended. Holographic figures dissolved, leaving only the platform and the participants. Ethan stood, breathing heavily but steady. The queen stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "You have succeeded," she said at last. "Your courage, your skill, and your loyalty are beyond question. You have proven that your bond with this empire is not merely survival, but purpose. Captain Cole, you are officially recognized as a protector of the Velian line." Ethan bowed, though the weight of responsibility pressed heavily upon him. "I will serve with honor," he said. Lyra stepped forward, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. "You do more than serve," she said softly. "You inspire. You remind us what courage truly means." The queen regarded them both, her gaze lingering on Ethan. "From this day forward," she said, "you will remain with us. Not as a prisoner, but as a bridge between our worlds. Your freedom is bound to your duty, but your honor remains yours. Protect this empire, and in doing so, you protect yourself." Ethan nodded. He understood the weight of her words. He had not chosen this bond, but he could honor it with every action. He felt the Velian energy in his veins, a constant reminder of the life he had given, the blood he had shed, and the promise he had made. The ceremony concluded, and the Elizar's halls buzzed with quiet activity. Guards and nobles whispered in hushed tones, impressed by the human who had proven himself in ways none could have anticipated. Lyra led Ethan to the balcony garden once more, the twin moons casting soft light across the polished floors. "You are part of this empire now," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "But remember, your courage is your own. No one can take that from you." Ethan looked out at the moons, their light reflecting in the river below. "Then I will use it wisely," he said. "Not for power, not for glory, but for protection, for life, for honor." Lyra smiled. "Then you are truly home," she said. The wind whispered through the sapphire-leafed trees, carrying the scent of distant worlds. Ethan stood beside Lyra, feeling the bond between them, between humans and Velians, solidifying with each heartbeat. He had shed his blood for her life, and in doing so, he had forged a new path, one where courage, loyalty, and honor transcended species, duty, and fear as the twin moons rose higher in the sky. Ethan knew that whatever challenges awaited, he would face them. Not as a human alone, not as a soldier alone, but as a protector of two worlds. His promise, his courage, and his blood had bound him to a destiny greater than he had ever imagined. And for the first time, he embraced it fully, knowing that home was not a place, but a purpose. The Elisar glowed softly beneath the stars, a testament to the unity of courage and duty, human and Velian. And at the heart of it, a human captain who had shed his blood for the alien princess. Now standing free in his honor, ready to defend a new world with unwavering strength, the galaxy, vast and infinite, would remember the human who became a bridge between worlds. And as the Elisar sailed silently among the stars, Ethan Cole understood that some bonds, forged in courage and blood, could never be broken.